Imagine a quiet, ordinary street in North London, the kind you've seen 1,000 times. Now, picture one house on that street becoming the epicenter of one of the most terrifying and well-documented hauntings in modern history. This is the true story of the Enfield Poltergeist, a case that has baffled experts and terrified the public for over 4 decades. It's a story of a family pushed to their limits, of investigators facing the impossible, and of a voice from beyond the grave that chilled a nation to its core. It all started on a seemingly normal night in August 1977, inside number 284 Green Street. Single mother Peggy Hodgson was just settling her 4 children down for the night. Her daughters, 11-year-old Janet and 13-year-old Margaret, shared a room. As Peggy was about to turn in, a sudden shuffling sound from their room made her heart skip a beat. She called up, telling the girls to stop messing around and go to sleep. They called back, their voices trembling, insisting they weren't doing anything. A moment later, they screamed. Peggy rushed upstairs to find her daughters huddled together, their faces pale with fright. They claimed their beds were moving on their own. Peggy, like any parent, was skeptical. She checked under the beds, looked around the room, and told them it was just their imagination. But as she turned to leave, she saw it herself. A heavy oak chest of drawers, a solid piece of furniture, began to slide across the floor. It moved without a sound, as if gliding on ice, propelled by an unseen force. Peggy tried to push it back into place, but it wouldn't move an inch. It felt as if someone or something was holding it firm. That was the moment her skepticism vanished, replaced by a cold, creeping dread. The haunting of the Hodgson family had begun. What started with shuffling furniture quickly escalated into a full-blown paranormal assault. The following nights were filled with a symphony of terror. A relentless knocking started from within the walls, a rhythmic, intelligent sound that seemed to follow them from room to room. Marbles and Lego bricks, once sitting innocently on the floor, would suddenly be launched across the room with incredible force, narrowly missing family members. It felt as if the house itself had turned against them. Peggy and her children were living in a constant state of fear, sleeping together in one room with the lights on, never knowing what would happen next. Desperate and terrified, Peggy did the only thing she could think of. She called the police. When the 2 police constables arrived, they expected to find a prankster or a simple explanation. Instead, they walked into a nightmare. As Peggy was explaining the bizarre events, one of the officers, a woman named Carolyn Heaps, witnessed a kitchen chair slide about 4 feet across the floor. There was no one near it. No strings, no tricks, it just moved. Stunned, she later signed a sworn affidavit confirming what she had seen. The police searched the entire house, from the attic to the cellar, but found no signs of an intruder, no logical cause for the disturbances. They were utterly baffled and admitted they couldn't help. The Hodgson family was on their own, trapped in a house with an invisible tormentor. The story soon leaked to the press, and the quiet council house on Green Street became a media sensation. Reporters and photographers camped outside, eager to capture a glimpse of the supernatural. The case attracted the attention of the Society for Psychical Research, a group dedicated to the scientific study of paranormal phenomena. 2 of their most prominent members, Maurice Grosse and Guy Lyon Playfair, arrived to investigate. They set up tape recorders, cameras, and spent the next 18 months documenting the strange and terrifying events that unfolded. They recorded over 1,500 distinct paranormal incidents. They witnessed toys flying, doors slamming shut with violent force, and felt inexplicable cold spots that would appear and disappear in an instant. The investigators themselves became targets. Grosse was once hit on the head by a flying slipper, and equipment would mysteriously malfunction or have its batteries drained in minutes. The atmosphere inside the house was electric, thick with an unseen and malevolent energy. But the most disturbing phenomena centered on young Janet Hodgson. It was as if the entity, whatever it was, had chosen her as its primary focus, and the activity around her was becoming more and more frightening. Multiple witnesses, including neighbors and a press photographer, saw Janet levitate. One famous photograph captures her midair, her body rigid, her face contorted in a mask of sheer terror as she's seemingly thrown from her bed. These weren't gentle floatings. They were violent, uncontrolled events that left her bruised and terrified. The entity seemed to have a physical hold on her. She was dragged from her bed by unseen hands, and at one point, a curtain wrapped itself around her neck, nearly choking her. The investigators were witnessing a child being physically assaulted by an invisible force, and they were powerless to stop it. Then, something happened that became the most famous and most chilling piece of evidence from the entire case. Janet began to speak, but the voice that came out was not her own. It was a deep, gravelly, and distinctly male voice. It sounded ancient and raspy, as if it was being forced through her vocal cords. The voice claimed to be a man named Bill Wilkins. In recorded interviews with Maurice Grosse, the voice of Bill would tell its story. In one bone-chilling recording, the voice rasps, "Just before I died, I went blind. And then I had a hemorrhage and I fell asleep and I died in the chair in the corner downstairs." It was a shocking claim. The investigators were skeptical, but they decided to look into it. They checked public records and tracked down Bill Wilkins' son, who confirmed the story. His father, Bill Wilkins, had indeed lived in that house. And he had died of a cerebral hemorrhage, sitting in his favorite armchair in the corner of the living room, the exact spot where he claimed to have died. The corroboration was staggering. It seemed to be undeniable proof that they were communicating with the spirit of a former resident. Of course, with fame came intense scrutiny. Skeptics were quick to accuse the children, particularly Janet, of faking the entire thing for attention. And to be fair, there were moments that raised suspicion. On one occasion, Janet was caught on video bending spoons and trying to hide a video camera. She and her sister later admitted to faking about 2% of the incidents, explaining they wanted to see if the investigators would catch them, to test if they were truly being taken seriously. However, this admission doesn't even begin to explain the vast majority of the evidence. How could two young girls make a heavy chest of drawers slide across a room? How could they make a police officer see a chair move on its own? And most importantly, how could Janet fake the deep, guttural voice of Bill Wilkins, which was captured on tape even when her mouth was visibly closed and filled with water? The evidence witnessed by multiple independent people, police, reporters, and investigators was simply too overwhelming to be dismissed as a childish hoax. The family gained nothing but fear, exhaustion, and public ridicule from the experience. For 18 long months, the Hodgson family endured this relentless paranormal siege. They lived in a constant state of anxiety, never knowing when the next bang, crash, or terrifying apparition would occur. The poltergeist activity seemed to ebb and flow, sometimes quiet for days, only to return with even greater intensity. The investigators, Grosse and Playfair, remained steadfast, documenting everything, trying to understand the nature of the force they were dealing with. Was it a poltergeist, a chaotic energy often linked to a troubled adolescent? Or was it something more, a genuine spirit like Bill Wilkins, trapped between worlds? The lines were constantly blurred. Then, as mysteriously as it all began, the activity started to fade. The knockings grew fainter, the objects stopped flying, and the voice of Bill Wilkins was heard less and less, until finally it fell silent. By 1979, the house at 284 Green Street was quiet once more. The haunting was over. In the years that followed, Janet Hodgson, now an adult, maintained her story. In interviews, she spoke of the trauma and the lasting impact the haunting had on her life. She stated firmly, "It wasn't a hoax. I know what I saw. It was real." The Enfield Poltergeist case remains one of the most compelling and thoroughly documented cases of paranormal activity in history. It has inspired books, documentaries, and the blockbuster horror film, The Conjuring 2, yet, despite all the evidence, all the recordings, and all the eyewitness accounts, no one has ever been able to definitively prove or disprove what truly happened inside that small London house. Was it a manifestation of psychological stress? A brilliant, elaborate hoax by two clever girls? Or was it genuine, terrifying proof that there are things in this world that exist just beyond our understanding, waiting in the shadows? The story of the Enfield Poltergeist leaves us with more questions than answers, a chilling reminder that some doors, once opened, can never be truly closed. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey into one of history's most chilling true stories. If you're fascinated by the unexplained and want to explore more real-life mysteries, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the Enfield case in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious.